Howdy everybody, welcome back to the Willie St. Willie channel once again, and happy Halloween. Now you might be asking yourself, what's with the whole spooky tone? Well, that's because as I'm recording this, it is All Hallows Eve weekend, and I would like to do something a little bit spooky to celebrate the season. Because Halloween's on a Tuesday this year, most people are celebrating a little bit early, and I myself am even going to a Halloween party pretty soon, a few hours. I even have a costume. I'm going to be Ghostface, of course. I even have a mask right here. I can do a pretty good impression of him. Let me see. Hey, it's a me, Ghostface. But in all seriousness though, guys, I wanted to celebrate the spooky season this year by doing it the best way I know how. Telling a scary story. And what better way to do that than by revisiting an old classic creepypasta? Because, I mean, let's face it, creepypastas are basically just internet campfire stories. But I didn't want to choose just any old creepypasta to read for you guys. I want to choose one that really stuck with me even several years after I read it. One that makes you scared to go on hikes in the woods even to this day. One that was inspired not just by internet subcultures and other creepypastas, but by Native American folklore and urban legends as well. That's right, what I'm talking about is none other than Anansi's Goatman story. And if you've never heard this story before, well then I mean, viewer beware, you're in for a scare, I'll just put it that way. So guys, sit back, relax, make yourselves comfortable, and without further ado, let's get into it. Anansi's Goatman story, saved from 4chan on Friday, September 28th, 2012. Here's my story. Be 16, be black, and have family down in Alabama. They farm and own a huge amount of land down in Huntsville. Uncle owns a big house and a bunch of trailers they put out in the woods for hunting or camping. Down south, cousins suggest that we go out there to camp. No, I'm a city kid from Chicago, so they tease the hell out of me. Collect food, kill a pig and some chickens, and bring necessities to camp out for a few days. We get to the camp and it's obvious something is weird. Air has this weird electric smell, like right before a storm, like ozone. We think nothing of it and unpack and go down a little creek to swim for a few hours. All of a sudden some older white guy and a white teenager come out of the bushes. He has a shotgun in the crook of his arm and says hello, and asks us what we're doing this far back in the woods. Tell him about my uncle, who he knows, and say we're camping out. He tells us we need to be real careful out here and stick together. There was a big animal in the woods. His son, who is around my age, asks if he can stay and hang out with us. He says okay. I'm going to stop green texting because the story is fairly long and the format is harder to write in. So we end up playing football. Messing around with me, there's this white kid named Tanner, 5 of my cousins, and then 4 of their friends in total. There were 5 girls and 6 boys. We were all around 15 or 17. We ended up just dicking the day away, so we head back to camp and pull out some of our stuff for a campfire. Even though the trailers both had kitchenettes, Tanner says that his family's property sits up against my uncle's. He wants to run home and ask his dad if he can come out camping with us. My cousin Rooster says he's going to go with him since it's going to get dark soon. One of the girls also wants to tag along. It's about 7 o'clock, and it's starting to get pretty dark. They take flashlights and take the trail toward Tan's property. The rest of us chill. We make s'mores and drink and kiss on some of the girls. About 30 or 40 minutes later, there's that smell of ozone again. You could smell it over the smell of the fire we had started. This really nasty coppery smell, like right after you had a nosebleed and it stopped. It wasn't exactly like dried blood, but it was that nasty metallic back of your throat smell. We immediately think that it's some kind of electrical malfunction or someone left a hot plate on or something. We search the trailers and nothing is on, but we can all smell it. All of a sudden we can hear people booking down the path towards us, and Rooster, Tan, and the girl all come running into the clearing out of breath. And they don't even break stride. They all run into the trailer right by where the fire is. We all get the hell out of there and run into the trailers, and they end up calming down. Even Rooster is crying his damn eyes out at this point. All the while, the fire is guttering lower and lower. So my other cousins say screw it and are about to go outside and get the generator out of a shed between the trailers. Tanner goes, no. Lock the front door, ain't nobody else going outside. He's been crying too, and his eyes are all bloodshot and puffy, and his pants are dirty as shit. He goes on to tell us that they went up to the house, and his father said sure, he can go out camping, but to make sure that they were careful on the way back, and that maybe they should take one of the hunting rifles just in case. Evidently, Tanner had seen something in their yard a few days before. One of their pigs had come up ripped up, half-eaten, and they assumed it was just some kind of big cat or coyote, even though they usually don't mess with live animals. He had gone upstairs and packed his stuff and told his dad they'd be okay without the rifle because coyotes usually avoid people. So they started walking back toward where we were camping. So Rooster finally stops crying and shaking, the girl already had, but she was just staring out the window with a dumb look on her face. He says they had gotten halfway into the woods toward the camp and they had started to hear things in the forest. It was almost pitch black at this time, so they weren't sure what the hell it was. The girl says that she heard something in the bushes right off the trail, and they all beamed their flashlights over there, and there was someone just standing there, back in the woods, at a little hollow. Rooster said that they shouted at him, and they told him that he was scaring the hell out of him and what a dick he was. He says that's when he realized that the guy was facing away from him. So they keep walking, and they start smelling that nasty coppery ozone smell. They say they look off into the forest on the opposite side, and it's that dude standing in the forest, backwards, but slightly closer to the path. So now they start power walking, and Tan keeps going, "I should have taken the damn rifle." I notice as they're telling the story, the smell is super strong even inside the cabin. They say that after they started walking faster, a kind of low gibbering had started coming from both sides of the woods. And as they started booking it back to the trailer, the girl said she shined her flashlight out into the woods to the side of them and had seen something jerking itself through the woods. The gibbering just got louder and louder, and when they could see the light from our campfire, something had come out of the woods about 40 yards behind them onto the track, and they just flat out ran as hard as they could to the trailer. So we're out in the damn woods, and we're assuming at this point it's some rednecks or something trying to mess with us. All of a sudden, my other cousin, Junior, starts going on about how he went to school with a native kid that was telling him about the goatman or something. We probably tell him to shut the hell up because we don't need any spooky talk right now. But he just keeps going on and on about the goatman, and now we're in his woods and blah blah blah. Now at the time I never heard of this goatman or any of that. But then a couple years ago, the year before I graduated from college, I had met him for a roommate, and I ended up asking him about it. And to sum it up, it's basically a man with the head of a goat, and he can shapeshift, and he gets among groups of people to terrorize them. It's also supposed to be kind of like the Wendigo, and it's bad mojo to even talk about it, and even worse if you see it. Keep in mind, I didn't know any of this back when I was 16, so my cousin is going, "The goat man's gonna get in, and he's gonna get us." The girls are all terrified, obviously, and my cousins are all trying to figure out if it's just some hillbillies or an animal. And all of a sudden, the smell just goes away. Like, to this day, I haven't even experienced anything like it. Like, usually smells fade away or lessen. It just literally was there 1 second and then not the next. So it's after an hour, making around 9 or 10, and we stop shitting bricks enough to go back outside and stoke the fire again. We figure it was just some guy trying to mess with us, so we don't go back home because we think if we do, they'll chase us through the woods or something. Nothing else weird happens that night, and we stay another night. And for the main part of the night, nothing really happens. About 1 in the morning, we're outside getting drunk and telling ghost stories as someone is finishing some too spooky story I don't even remember what about. The smell comes back. And it's so damn strong that one of the girls literally starts vomiting. I stand up and you can actually feel how clammy the air is. I say we should get inside and that this isn't right and we should have just left. We all go back inside and we're standing around. My cousin just keeps going on about the goat man again, and my cousin Rooster just tries to shut him up. And all the while I'm just feeling that something is wrong. And I can't figure out what it is. We end up sitting there for a while. The smell is just as strong and we're terrified and all huddled in this camper. We end up cooking brats for everybody because nobody wants to go outside. It's one of those packs with 4 brats inside of it, and we have a total of 3 of them. I grill them up on the stove and give everybody a hot dog. I get mine, and after a while, one of my cousins gets up and goes over to the pot to get another one. He starts grumbling about how I get 2 brats and everybody else only gets 1, and I look at him like he's stupid. I tell him that everybody only got 1 because there were only 12 brats. If he wants more, he should open up a new pack and cook some more. That's when the girl that had been out with Rooster and Tanda starts screaming, "Oh, Jesus, Lord, get it out!" She's crying and shivering, and then it dawns on the cousin standing up what's wrong. Me and him both glance around the room, and I feel my heart sink. I run out of the cabin, and the girl runs out with us. The trailer door is banging at the side of the trailer as everybody books it out of the cabin. One of my cousin's friends starts asking what's wrong, and I start counting us. There's only 11 now. I shit you not. My cousin verified there have been 12 people in the cabin, but being that everybody didn't really know each other that well, nobody had really noticed the whole time that there was an extra person. And then I realized earlier that I kind of noticed something was off. You know when you're just messing around, having a good time, you don't really sweat the small stuff and you don't always keep track of certain things? I'm dead sure that someone else had been in the trailer with us. And they had been there for at least a day, eating with us, and what makes it worse is I could figure out which one because I don't think anyone ever actually interacted with the other person. Or the goatman. The girl kept praying to Jesus, so we're all sitting outside, and eventually we grab big sticks so we can defend ourselves and get back in the cabin. But there's nobody in there. We count again, and there's 11 people. We go back into the trailer and lock the door. We explain what happened, and the girl says that she realized it too. And that when he was about to say something, the person sitting next to her grabbed her leg hard and leaned over toward her and said something that she couldn't really understand. So we're pretty much all scared as we huddle together and fall asleep. When I wake up, the sun is just coming up and half the people are asleep and the other half are packing their stuff up. We all want to walk back home, but like 4 people want to stay until the sun is all the way up. And some people think that we're just messing around and still want to stay at the trailer. I just want to get out of the woods. The girl's name was Kira, the one that the goatman had touched. Anyway, I asked her if she really thinks it was something bad. She says she just wants to go home and doesn't want to be out in the woods alone for another night. So we decided to split up. The 4 that want to go can go, but I have to stay because I have the keys of the cabin and it's my uncle's, so I have to lock it up. I'm super pissed at this point because I feel like people aren't taking this seriously, and I definitely don't want to be out in the woods for another night. I spend the rest of the day trying to convince the rest of the people, now 4 girls and 4 guys, to get out of Dodge. Tanner leaves with them to get a rifle and says he's going to be back. So there are just 7 of us left, by 4 p.m. At around 5 p.m. he hasn't made it back yet. We're getting extremely antsy. And the only reason I stopped begging him to go back was because he went to get a gun. It's about 5:30 p.m. or so, when the one cousin that did stay says that the girl Kira is outside. We all look outside, and sure enough, she's standing by the fire pit with her back to the cabin. I'm thinking to myself, if she was so scared, why the hell would she come back? And then I get this nasty feeling in my gut. Keep in mind, the whole time the coppery smell has been gone. Now I realize I can smell just a twinge of it. I say this to the rest of them and everybody, and keep in mind, these are the people that wanted to stay in the woods after we supposedly had that damn goat man in our midst, is laughing at me and asking if I set this up to scare them. I'm looking at them like, I'm not bullshitting you at all right now. I asked them why would I play like that, so one of the girls goes outside to get Kira. She gets halfway to her and stops cold. Kira starts heaving. I don't know how else to describe it. Sort of like if someone with their back turned was laughing while not actually making any sound. It was this fact that made me realize there was not a sound in the whole woods. It was just dead silent. This is like later in September, so it was still fairly hot at the time. But it was super chilly some days too, and you can usually hear big geese honking or some kind of bird or squirrels chit-chatting. So I stepped out the door to tell her to come back in the trailer right now. She steps back in the trailer and we lock the door. We pulled out all the shades except one and put a guy there in a chair to watch her. She stands there for another 20 minutes or so. The guy turns to say that she's still there, and there's a huge bang on the door. We all jump and scramble around the living room of the trailer, and this damn banging is so loud. So my cousin is holding one of the girls, and the other 2 are kind of just giggling with nervous laughter, and me and 2 of the other guys are just shitting bricks. Then we hear Tan. He's screaming, "Let me in! I'm not playing! Let me in!" So we go over to the door and open it, and he stumbles in with a rifle, but there's nobody else outside. Evidently, we had walked up to the campsite. Nothing weird happened in the forest, but he had seen the girl. Mind you, he said it was not Kira standing there. When he had gotten to the edge of the clearing, she had turned toward him with a slack-jawed look and just stared him down, slowly tracking him as he walked around the outside of the clearing towards the camp. He said it wasn't until he was almost halfway to the trailer he had realized that she was getting closer to him. She had started off by the fire without him even seeing her move. She had been turning and inching closer. He said he just ran the rest of the way back to the cabin thinking it would be open. And when he got to the door, it was locked. He turned and it was about half the distance to the door. He looks around the room and then he gets super pale. He pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, "You know there are only 7 of us in here, right?" I get that feeling when your stomach drops. And been back inside the trailer where we're sorting out who was going where. And then when we all went outside to talk earlier in the day, it just slipped right back in. We looked out the window and there's nobody out there. So we recount everyone, and then basically I go over and ask everyone how many people were here earlier, and everybody says 8. I say, well, how many are here now? They all do the count and realize there are only 7 people in the cabin. So Tana brought back a couple boxes of ammo in his rifle. He had told his dad there was some kind of animal in the forest because he didn't think his dad would believe him if he said it was the goatman. He says his cousin is supposed to be coming down in a few hours, and that in the morning we can all go back to his place and his cousin will drive us home. At this point, I'm really terrified. But at least I feel better because we can be American and shoot the hell out of whatever the hell it is that comes back. But then my cousin gets in this huge argument with one of the girls because she thinks that I'm trying to be funny and prank him, and that she's getting really scared and that I'm not funny. He keeps telling her that I'm not that kind of person, and she says, well, how do we know the girl wasn't just Tanner in a wig? Or if it's really the goatman, how do we know that this is the real Tanner and that goatman just didn't kill Tanner in the woods and take his gun? So we get into a huge argument about this, where me and Tanner are like, can we seriously be in danger? Because at the very least someone has been sneaking themselves into our damn trailer without us knowing and mingling with us. And at worst, something bad is in the forest messing with us. One of the girls is crying. She wants to go home now. And we're trying to tell her we shouldn't because none of us are walking through the woods in the middle of the night. And at this point, the sun is starting to go down and it's getting a little cloudy out. We eat something and turn on the radio for a while, but we can't really get a station out there with anything decent. So we turn it off, and about that time, Tan's cousin shows up. He was like 19, I think. At this point, the sun is just barely over the horizon. He has one of those heavy-duty lantern flashlights and another rifle. He walks over to the trailer and we whisper to Tan, asking if he's sure that's his cousin, and he says yes. The guy looks behind him and all around the camp, then walks in. He kind of glances at all of us and looks a little confused. He says, where's your other little buddy at? I figured she would meet me up at the cabin. Is she a little slow or something? He also asked whether we were cooking blood in the cabin because it smelled like blood and hot pans all the way up the trail. We all said, nope. But we asked him what the hell he's talking about with the girl he saw. He had come down the same trail Tan had been using, and he came up to one of you guys' buddies that had been standing in the middle of the trail, looking at him slack-jawed. He had asked her a bunch of questions, but all she did was just look at him, then smiled at him. And he said he just kept walking. She couldn't seem to keep up with him and kept lagging a little behind him. He said he asked her if she was hurt or something, and if she needed any help. But she continued to stare. Eventually he had been walking and turned around the bend of a trail, and when he turned back around to see if she was still okay, the trail was empty. He assumed she had taken some sort of shortcut through the woods to our trailer or something. We tell him the whole story of what's been going on, and I have expected him to say we were just full of it, but he just listened, and then he sat down on the couches in the living room. Tanner's cousin gets back to the girl and he says, when she had kept trying to lag behind him, it kind of weirded him out. So he tried to keep her in front of him, but no matter how slow he walked, she was just always lagging a little behind. And that he smelled this nasty smell, and it got stronger as he got to camp. Eventually it got really strong. She had said something really low that he couldn't really hear, but when he had turned around, she had been right up on him, and he just stepped back from her. It was at this point he asked her if she was okay, and if she wasn't, he asked if he could carry her back the rest of the way. But she just kept staring. He said he reached out for her as to grab her on the shoulder, but he must have misjudged the distance because she was off to the side of where he had put his hand, like she had moved while he was looking dead at her. So at this point, we knew this was real, unless Tan is also just playing a joke, which we can tell he's not because he's almost pissing his pants. So they lit up their rifles, we eat a little bit more, and we just kind of sit around until 11. To this day, every time I think about this, I really pray to God that it's just some huge prank my cousins pulled on me and just never revealed it to me. And around 11, the stink of copper turns into an actual nasty, gross, blood-like smell, like cooking blood and singed hair. Tan and his cousin Reese get up and instantly grab the rifles. There's like a half-knocking half clawing at the door. And there's this voice. It sounds like when you see those YouTube cats and dogs whose owners teach them how to quote-unquote talk. And it says in this halting, weirdly toned voice, "Let me in. Stop playing." I felt a chill go through my body, and one of the girls just starts crying and praying to Jesus again. It was very obviously not a person talking. It didn't have the right cadence, and that's something I never realized until this moment. But all the people have a certain cadence when they talk. No matter what language, all people have a certain kind of rhythm to talking. This didn't have any sort of cadence or rhythm. Like I'm telling you, like one of those YouTube cats. It sounded like it was just right outside the door. So I'm in full-on terror mode at this point. We keep yelling outside, "Who is it? Stop messing around, man." And it just keeps saying "in" or "let me in" for almost 15 minutes. Here's a link for it, but it sounded almost like this. It's just not funny. But sorry for being on a tangent, but if you can't imagine how this sounded, then you can't imagine how messed up the whole situation was. So then the smell just goes away for a while. And for the next hour or so, you can hear someone basically creeping around in the woods. Every couple of minutes, they'll come back to the door and say something. And finally, when the smell fades away, it's around 2 in the morning, and Reese just says, "Man, fuck this." He opens the door and walks outside with his rifle. He fires a shot into the air and says something to the effect of, "In the name of Jesus Christ, go away." Then he fires 2 more times. And then from the woods, right up against the river from across the trailer, it sounds like something is slowly gibbering and hooting. Then it starts screaming. And it sounds almost like a woman and a cat in a bag screaming together. Like I've seriously never heard anything like that in my life. And you can hear the brush over that direction start to shake. Reese fires over into the tree line and starts backing into the house. We lock the door, we can still hear it keening and screaming. Reese says something had come out of the bushes super low to the ground, crawling toward the cabin, and he had shot at it. Pretty much that was how the rest of the night went. It was literally screaming constantly for the next 2 hours, and we could hear moving out into the tree line, but it never came back up to the cabin until everyone had finally fallen asleep. Tan had been sitting around in the chair watching the door with his rifle. Nobody else heard or saw this. He told me 2 days later, after the whole thing was over. He said he had been nodding off after the screaming and noises finally stopped, and he had been almost asleep when he saw someone come out of the bathroom and then lay down in the middle of the floor and go to sleep. He just assumed it was one of us and just nodded back off. Then he said he kind of realized something was wrong. And while pretending to be asleep, he counted us. There were 9 people in the cabin. He basically didn't want to try to shoot at the thing in the cabin and have it kill all of us right then and there, or have Reese wake up and start shooting and then we all just kill ourselves. So we just stayed awake all night, pretending to be asleep. He said sometimes it would just stand up and kind of do this weird jittery thing or heave like it was laughing, but then it would just lay back down. The story closes pretty weak because, from my perspective, nothing happened. We woke up and I noticed that Tan was a little jittery and that he was avoiding looking at all of us, but we ate some breakfast, packed up, and started walking to his house. He stayed last in the cabin and said he'd lock up and bring me my uncle's keys to just start walking and he'd catch up, which I didn't really want to do. We got a little bit up the path, and when he came running up, basically we just jogged back to his house, and his cousin took us home. There was a window in the bathroom. Tan had gone back to lock up and looked in there. We were too stupid to lock a screenless window. And the window was up when he went in there. I guess it had been doing that all along, waiting for us to fall asleep or slip up and then getting in among us. It walked with us all the goddamn way back to his house. And then he said it lagged to the back of the group, looked him dead in the eyes, and just walked back into the woods. Pretty spooky, huh, guys? There's a reason this creepypasta is a classic, guys. I mean, the characters just feel so real, like I can be in that situation, and the story and the writing feels very grounded compared to some other popular creepypastas, so yeah, I love it. Definitely consider it a classic, good campfire story to tell. I would definitely think twice before going on my next hike or camping trip in the woods. I also kind of try to utilize real world animals, like with the noises the goatman supposedly makes, and I don't know, it's just overall very effective. And I remember the first time reading that, I think when I was like 12 or something like that, it definitely frightened me. And the first time I read it, I think I went on a camping trip like a day after I read that. So yeah, very effective and a little bit nostalgic for me. You guys, let me know some of your favorite classic creepypastas, or just maybe underrated ones that don't get much love in the comments below. I would love to hear them and talk to you about it. But to wrap this video up, guys, I just want to tell you once again, happy Halloween. And if you do decide to go trick-or-treating this year, stay safe out there. Oh, in case you ever meet a stranger in the woods, and they just seem just a little bit off, well, maybe they're not who you think they are. And remember, guys, just in case I don't see you, stay safe and have a good one. Goodbye.